Magnetic tape. These were giant, spinning reels of iron oxide-coated plastic, looking more like something from a classic sci-fi movie than a modern computer. Storing data on tape was like trying to find a specific scene in a movie by fast-forwarding an old VHS. It was linear, mechanical, and agonizingly slow. You had to physically wind through hundreds of meters of tape just to find one piece of information. Yet, this was the first time we realized we could record digital bits as magnetic pulses. It was the bedrock of everything to come, but it was far from portable. Floppy disk. In the 1970s, the world of data storage finally became personal. The floppy took that giant magnetic reel and flattened it into a portable, flexible square. If the magnetic tape was a massive library where you had to walk down every aisle to find a book, the floppy was like a single notebook you could carry in your pocket. Its capacity was tiny, eventually settling at 1.44 megabytes, but it gave us the power to carry our work home. To put that in perspective, a single modern smartphone photo would need a stack of about 4 floppy disks just to exist. CD. In the 1980s, the optical revolution changed the game by moving away from magnets and toward light. Engineers figured out how to use a microscopic laser to read pits and lands etched into a reflective surface. Suddenly, we jumped from the 1.4 megabytes of a floppy to 700 megabytes on a single plastic silver circle. That's a 500-fold increase in storage. If a floppy was a notebook, a CD was an entire shelf of encyclopedias. However, most CDs were read-only, meaning you couldn't easily change the data once it was burned into the plastic. Hard disk drive. While HDDs existed in the early days, they became the undisputed kings of the 90s and 2000s. The HDD is a mechanical masterpiece. It contains metal platters spinning at thousands of revolutions per minute, while a tiny needle hovers just atoms away from the surface. Imagine a Boeing 747 flying 6 inches off the ground at full speed without ever touching the grass. That is the precision of a hard drive. This allowed us to store gigabytes and then terabytes, providing the massive reservoirs needed for the high-definition video age. RAM. While the hard drive is your computer's long-term memory, RAM is its short-term memory. Think of the hard drive as a massive filing cabinet in the corner of the room, and RAM as the surface of your desk. To do any work, the computer has to pull a file out of the cabinet and lay it on the desk where it can be accessed instantly. RAM is incredibly fast, but it's volatile, meaning the moment you turn off the power, the desk is wiped clean. This is why your computer needs both, a big cabinet to store your life and a wide desk to actually get things done. Pen drive. At the turn of the millennium, the USB stick did something revolutionary. It removed the movement. By using flash memory, it trapped electrons in floating gates on a silicon chip. No moving parts, no spinning disks, just pure electricity. A pen drive could survive being tossed in a bag, dropped on the floor, or put through a wash cycle, and it could still hold more data than a stack of 1,000 floppy disks. It made data sharing physical, instant, and rugged. Micro SD. This is the era of extreme miniaturization. A micro SD card is smaller than a fingernail, and yet today it can hold 2 terabytes of data. To visualize this leap, if we tried to store that much data on 1950s magnetic tape, the reels would stretch from New York to London and back. We have reached a point where the storage device is practically smaller than the data itself. It's the technology that allowed our smartphones to become high-powered cameras and media centers. SSD. This is the modern champion of performance. An SSD takes the technology of the pen drive but scales it up to replace the hard drive entirely. Because there are no physical arms moving to find data, the speed is near instantaneous. It's the difference between a librarian running to fetch a book from a basement and the book simply appearing in your hand the moment you think of it. SSDs have turned the bottleneck of the computer into its greatest strength. Thanks for watching Tech Briefly. Please like, share, and subscribe for more such brief tech videos.